I'm going to talk today about mainly it's not to be about Flutter versus React Native. It's mostly going to be about Kotlin Multiplatform. So so the topic of my talk will be Kotlin Multiplatform versus Flutter versus React Native. And before we proceed, I just want to introduce myself because I probably don't know a lot of people here. My name is Nick or Mikola or Nikolai, whatever you prefer. Um, I was the second or maybe the third employee of SeniorDev.
The second, yeah.
Second, okay, yeah. So yeah, I got a very generous stock options. I have a lot of stock options of SeniorDev, and I became a millionaire straight away. But yeah,
This is propaganda.
yeah. No,
Don't
but
believe it.
actually, I did offer Thomas. In the beginning, there was an offer, but yeah, I didn't get anything from SeniorDev. Anyway, so I'm around 10 years in mobile. I started my career in SeniorDev in 2015. So I was mostly working in Android, and now I'm actively looking into Kotlin Multiplatform. I recently, become a JetBrains content creator. So basically, it's not any status or anything, but I can give you discounts on JetBrains products if you guys want to try something. I blog about Android and KMP mostly on my LinkedIn page, but also on my website. And right now I'm building a course. It's called KMP for Android developers, and you guys can check it out. And if you register right now before it goes live, you get 30% off. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to. This is going to be the structure of the talk. First, I'm going to just talk a little bit about cross-platform frameworks, how many there are. Then we're going to do the high-level comparison between these three frameworks that we're going to talk about. Then I'll go into how they work and their performance, pros and cons of each framework, and then we will do a decision tree of how to choose the right framework for your job, basically. First of all, I just wanted to ask, are there any mobile developers here on this call, or has anyone tried Kotlin Multiplatform?
I'm a mobile developer, but I haven't tried this one.
Okay, yeah. So Kotlin Multiplatform is relatively new. It's been out for 5 years, but it's starting to gain traction just right now. So does anyone know how many cross-platform frameworks there are right now that are, officially out? Anyone have any guesses?
If you include all the ones that have been around for a very long time, and then there's pretty many. And I also get a sense it's just these three ones.
Yeah. So the ones I've counted is there are around 9 cross-platform frameworks as of now, which are actively supported up until now. So, but the most famous ones are, of course, Flutter and React Native. And since I'm going to be doing propaganda on Kotlin Multiplatform, also Kotlin Multiplatform. So, so I'll do a high-level comparison first between these frameworks, and then we'll go into more details about this. So the first thing is the language that each of these frameworks uses. Kotlin Multiplatform uses, obviously, Kotlin. Flutter uses Dart, and React Native is JavaScript. Then we have the GitHub stars, and you can see that, of course, Flutter is the most popular framework, and but other ones are catching up. In terms of the UI rendering, Flutter is ahead of everyone because of their custom Skia engine. I would say Kotlin Multiplatform is right behind because it uses native UI components, and React Native uses a bridge, so it's the third one, I would say. In terms of the performance, Kotlin Multiplatform is using actual APIs of each platform, so there's minimal overhead when using it. Flutter has a really fast UI rendering because of their custom engine, and but it also comes with a small trade-off in terms of a higher memory usage, and React Native is slower because once again it's using this bridge between the native APIs and JavaScript. By the way, if somebody here is a React Native, please forgive me because I'm not going to be saying anything good about React Native in this talk, but yeah.
Shout out for Svetlana, Ludmila.
Yeah. I just wanted to move. Nick is disconnected.
This was Ludmila.
Yeah,
Just put down his computer.
Yeah, Nick. Hi, I'm Luda, and I'm using React Native right now for one of our clients' project. And I just wanted to mention that React Native new architecture that released officially a few months ago is now using bridgeless mode. So it's not using bridge anymore, and it's increased its speed and render. Though new architecture has a few issues, but yeah, it's increasing its quality and speed rendering and all this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that thank you, first of all, for that. And I want to say I know, of course, the most about KMP. I know a little bit about Flutter because I use it in some projects, and React Native I haven't used in any of my projects. So if you guys know about React Native something better, I might have mistakes here. So yeah, go ahead and speak up, and it's going to be useful for everyone. So thank you for that. Yeah, so in terms of integration with the native code, Kotlin Multiplatform has full interoperability with Android and iOS. As far as I know, Flutter, it's possible with platform channels, and React Native, as I know, it requires native bridges for complex integrations. Kotlin Multiplatform doesn't yet have hot reload. It's still in a feature that is in progress, but other frameworks do have them. As terms of what they are all good for, so Kotlin Multiplatform is best for sharing business logic and using native UI. Flutter is probably the best right now in terms of just building cross-platform apps all together, and React Native is really good for those who are coming from the web and familiar with JavaScript. And yeah, so all of these are backed by big companies. You know about Flutter and React Native, and Kotlin Multiplatform is right now growing, and it's JetBrains backed. And in terms of adoption, as I said, React Native is easy for web devs. Kotlin Multiplatform is easy for native devs, maybe not as easy for iOS ones, but for Android, it's really easy. And Dart is not really coming from anything, so it's probably a little bit higher learning curve for other ones. So yeah.
I can make a small point that it's easier if you come from a React world to use Dart.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because of the architecture, I guess. So yeah. And now I just want to explain a little bit of how they work and compare them, all three of them. I think Eula said, right? It was Eula, or what was the name of the girl, the React Native one?
Luda.
Luda?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this is my outdated knowledge, but as far as I know, it's React Native is using this kind of an engine that's I don't remember the name of it. It starts with an H, but what it does is it sends message to the native framework. In our case, we have Android here, and then it tells basically the native framework to what to draw on the screen and what to do with the the system and whatever. And the same way it goes back. Basically, it sends a message through this bridge, and then the engine itself is basically processing all these messages. But as Luda mentioned, basically, I guess this is now different, so that's good. But that's how I know it worked, at least previously. Then Flutter, we have their Skia engine, which is, from what I know, really great for drawing UI, because it doesn't use any middlemen or anything. It just draws straight what Flutter tells it to, straight on the screen. And Kotlin Multiplatform uses native APIs. Basically, it's just like native development in Android or iOS. We're pulling strings that the native development does. So it's really straightforward in this sense. In terms of performance, yeah, so the startup time, I'm probably gonna, because a lot of people are here are not really technical, so I'm just gonna blow through this one, and I'm praising Kotlin Multiplatform here, so it's gonna get all of the stars. But what I wanted to mention is that what makes Kotlin Multiplatform indeed different from other frameworks is its usage of direct access to native APIs. So this is like a game changer, you could say, with other frameworks, meaning that we are essentially developing for many platforms, but with its native APIs. So in terms of rendering, I gave us here an award for Flutter, because as far as I know, the Skia rendering engine, it's really smooth, and the animations are working very well there. So yeah, but in terms of other stuff, in my mind, Kotlin Multiplatform right now is the best across other multi-platform frameworks. I want to go through the pros and cons of each framework. So Flutter is, of course, really great for developers. Its documentation is amazing. It has a lot of features, strong tooling, Google support. The Skia engine is drawing everything really fast, and you can do custom UI and animations across many platforms, and it handles it really well. The cons are, with the usage of the Skia engine, it's a bit of a larger app size. So that is something we have to keep in mind. Integrating with existing native apps is harder. It's harder to actually call the native APIs with with Flutter, and also Dart is not as known as JavaScript or Kotlin, but it's not that hard to learn either. So those are basically the pros and cons for Flutter. In terms of the React Native, the pros are it leverages JavaScript and React, so it's easy for web devs to get into. It has a really large community. A lot of people are using it, and so I know a lot of projects are written in it, and it has a lot of support from third-party libraries and custom UI components that can be used. In terms of the cons, there is that performance overhead, but as far as I understood, that is now less of a concern because of this bridgeless architecture. Because of the previous architecture, some complex apps were suffering from latency, although it's not really a big latency, but in terms of a really high, apps that are really powerful, they need to do everything quickly, so that could be noticeable. And native modules can be a little bit hard to maintain when using React Native. And now Kotlin Multiplatform. As I mentioned previously, the biggest game changer about Kotlin Multiplatform is you can directly call native APIs with Kotlin Multiplatform. Essentially, you're writing multiplatform, like native code, but in Kotlin. It really integrates really easy into existing Android projects. So you could reuse a lot of that logic and build. You don't have to rewrite everything at once. And it reuses business logic and keeps native UI if you need it. But you can also use Compose Multiplatform. In terms of the cons, because it's still growing, the UI is in beta for iOS, and iOS support is still maturing. There's a much smaller community and fewer libraries that you can use. And as I mentioned, there is no hot reload. So now in terms of choosing the right framework for your job, basically. The main question is, do you need the app to be production ready ASAP? If yes, then you have to consider what is your team's background. And obviously, if the background is web, you should be using React Native. If the background is Android or Kotlin developers, it will be much easier for them to start working with KMP. And if they don't have either background, but as Thomas mentioned previously, maybe if they do have web React background, it may be easier for them to do Flutter. Then the question is, if you're not in much of a hurry, you need to consider other things. For example, what kind of a project you're building. If it's a new application, you have to consider what are your priorities for this application. If it's performance and integration of native components, I think KMP is the best choice because it really seamlessly integrates with all of the available native APIs in all of the platforms. Then if you have a web team and you need rapid prototyping, React Native is the best choice for this matter. And if you need fast development, it's best to use Flutter because of the custom UI because of the Skia engine, and also the fact that it's really mature and a lot of there's a lot of support from the community in Google. Now, the final thing to consider also is what if you're not building a new application, but instead you're building an Android or instead you're migrating an Android iOS application that is native. The question is, do you want to keep as much original code as possible? So say, for example, you have a really large legacy application and you don't really have the time to rewrite everything. If the answer is yes, then you should go for KMP because you can take that module by module and basically you don't have to rewrite the whole legacy application at once. And if you don't need to keep the code, then I would, of course, probably go right now with Flutter because, as I mentioned, it's out of all these frameworks, it's probably the most well supported and the most powerful one. So that's pretty much it for my talk. If you guys want to use, if you guys want to try JetBrains products, or if you guys want to, you have, if you already are using them, you can use these codes for your discounts if you want to. And go ahead and also follow me on LinkedIn. And yeah, I would be glad to connect and keep in touch. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Very good. I learned some new things.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything.
Guys, any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. Is that how hard is integrating some, not integrating, but developing some custom native stuff? The thing that coming on my mind is that implementing some native code or native component, custom one that is not existing in some of the UI libraries, or something really specific, is really hard for React Native, because you need to write for Android and iOS differently on native code. How hard is it on Kotlin?
Yeah, so that's basically the powerful feature about Kotlin Multiplatform, is that you have two choices. You can either use what's called a Compose Multiplatform framework, which is a UI framework for Kotlin Multiplatform to write for all platforms, or you can use the actual native codes for each. So, for example, for iOS, you would use Swift. For Android, you would use well, either Compose or XML or whatever you decide. And yeah, you can write actual code in that language, and then it will integrate with KMP. But also you can use Kotlin to write for the two platforms at once. So it's yeah, it's fairly easy in that sense.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.